Bhavani Mataji. And we have Bhagavad Gita classes on Saturday and Sunday, so please join regularly and get this association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Would anybody else like to announce their names? Hare Krishna. Would anybody else like to announce their names? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Today we are reading chapter 18, the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation, text number 64. Hare Krishna. Vikas Prabhuji or Mataji, please take over the call now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My humble obeisances to all the devotees. As is our normal custom, before we begin our class, let's chant the Mangalacharan prayers. So, Sumati Mataji, would you like to recite the prayers, please? Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिधि नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for such beautiful recitation. Today we will cover 1864. I'm not sure whether we will have enough time to go to verse 65 because verses 65 and 66 will require a bit of time for us to discuss, and there is personal application there. So how to, take the words and how to apply it on our lives is important in those two verses. So I wanted to devote some time for that. So let's see how we progress. For 1864, I will ask Haladhar Das Prabhu to guide us through our recitation, and then we'll cover the reading of the synonyms, the word for word translation, the translation of the words and the purport. And then if there is time, we will see whether we can cover 65 or a part of it. So thanks for that. Haladhar Das Prabhu, please guide us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanyavad. So 18.64, it's on page number 703 on English Bhagavad Gita. So the wordings are like Sarva Guhya Tamam Bhuyaha Shruno Me Paramam Vachaha Istosi Me Dridam Iti Tato Vakshami Te Hitam Sarva Guhya Tamam Bhuyaha Shruno Me Paramam Vachaha Istosi Me Dridam Iti Tato Vakshami Te Hitam. So Is anybody? Please try it.
Hare Krishna. Srimati is reading. Sarvaguhyatamam bhuya shrinu me paramam vacha ishtosi me dridamiti tato vakshyami te hitam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Have to start reading. सर्गुहितं भूयः शृणु मे परमं वचः इष्टो वश मे दृढ़मति ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Sarvguham tamam bhuva sruna me param pacha ist asi me dridam iti tatya vachami te hitam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I will go, but if there is anybody else who would like to recite the words, please go ahead after him. Sarvaguhyatamam bhuyah shruno me paramam vachah ishtosi me dridamiti tato vakshyami te hitam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vallimati, you want to go, please?
Hare Krishna. सर्वगुह्यतमं भूयः शृणु मे परमं वचः इष्टोऽसि मे दृढमिति ततो वक्ष्यामि ते हितम्. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Sarvapuyyam matam bhuyaha shunu me paramam vachaha ishtosi me dృఢమితి tato vakshami te hitam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else who would like to recite the words? Okay. Maybe one devotee can do the synonyms, another can read the translation. The purport is small, so maybe another two devotees can read the purport. Maybe you can follow in the order of recitation. So Aladar Das Prabhu, Sunati Mataji, Valli Mataji, and Chandrasika Mataji.
Okay.
I'll read the translation.
Sure, Prabhu.
Okay.
Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instructions, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Aladar Das Prabhu, would you read the synonyms, please? Yeah.
I'll read the synonym before we go to the purpose.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, Prabhu, no problem.
Mm.
Sarva Guhyatamam, the most confidential of all. Bhuyaha, again. Shrinu, just hear. Me, from me. Paramam, the supreme. Vachaha, instructions. Itaha, istaha, asi. You are dear. Me, to me. Dridam, very. Iti, thus. Tataha, therefore. Vakshami, I am speaking. Te, for your hitam, benefits. Now we can read the translation again, Prabhu, if you want to. Read it, please.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
You want to read translation again?
Please, go ahead.
Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
So, Mataji's, if you can divide the reading of the purport between the three of you.
Purport you shall Prabhu. The Lord has given Arjuna knowledge that is confidential, knowledge of Brahman, and still more confidential, knowledge of Super Soul within everyone's heart. And now he is giving the most confidential part of knowledge. Just surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the end of the 9th chapter, he has said, Manmanaha, just always think of me. The same instructions is repeated here to stress the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. This essence is not understood by a common man, but by one who is actually very dear to Krishna, a pure devotee of Krishna. This is the most important instruction in all Vedic literatures. What Krishna is saying in this connection is the most essential part of knowledge, and it should be carried out not only by Arjuna but by all living entities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, I'll say a small prayer and then we'll begin the discussions. So the verse begins with the words Sarva Guhyatanam. So what the Lord is uh, referring to here is the what he's going to now cover in verses 65 and 66. So in we've talked about Guhya. So Guhya knowledge is in verses 54 and 55. And what was that knowledge? It is the knowledge that I am not this body, but the soul that resides within this body, and the soul has nothing to do with the matter. And because the soul has nothing to do with the matter and the material surroundings around us, the concepts of me and mine, the concepts of duality that that is about this and that, me versus others, likes and dislikes, etc. It do not matter because that's not what we are. We are completely in a foreign situation in that sense. Nothing around us is relatable to us because we are permanent and everything around us, even though in an energy form, is permanent and is part of the Lord, in its visual form, in the form through which we experience it through the body and the senses, is all temporary. It is changing shape, size, structure, characteristics all the time. So we cannot relate to it. If we try to find happiness in it, we cannot find happiness in it. It's all temporary. And therefore, the soul is na shochati. It doesn't lament for what is happening around it. And na kankshati. It doesn't even desire to get anything out of it. And samaha sarveshu bhuteshu. So here, when the word bhuteshu is being talked about, it is being talked about in the sense that every other soul. So not the soul with its covering of body, but the soul itself. So now, because a realized soul realizes that it is different from the matter, it also starts to see the soul within matter around it. And therefore, it is compassionate to the soul who is entrapped by such matter. So, because he is in that level of state and understanding, he is samaha sarveshu bhuteshu. And at that stage, mad bhakti labhate param, because he is now able to understand who the Lord is and what his relationship with him is, what his relationship with other bhutas is, or the other souls is, and what this matter is. Whatever life situations we are in around us, what is that? So once it is so clear, then the true bhakti, the possibility of bhava bhakti and prema bhakti begins from here onwards. So this is confidential, that we are the soul, and at the stage when we realize that we are the soul and above matter, uh, mad bhakti labhate param, that his devotional service begins from there onwards. So those who actually uh, start to progress from Brahma Bhuta stage into Bhakti, then for them there is no chance of fall down. But those who says, if they have come to the Brahma Bhuta stage, not from bhakti tradition, not through devotion, and do not realize that there is further progress ahead, may risk a chance of fall down, because that soul at any time may get attracted by matter, may want to lord it over the matter, and then if that feeling persists, and generally matter is so attractive that the feeling will persist, the scriptures tell us that there is a chance of falling down. So that's confidential. Just imagine how much this is, how many people know it, and it is confidential. The further confidential or guhyataram, which is what was covered in verse 61, is this: there is the super soul. The Lord actually resides as super soul in everyone's heart. Now, we had spoken about the significance of that verse in the last class. What that means is the Lord is in your hearts, in my heart, in everybody's heart, not only in this birth, but in the millions and billions of births we've taken in the past. And hopefully, because we are devotees, we may not have to take birth again. Our actions would be such. But for those who continue to languish in this material world, he is going to remain with each and every one of them, doesn't matter in what condition of life they are in. He is going to always be there with that jiva throughout his journey in this material world, from the birth of Brahma to the whole life of Brahma, and that is 311 trillion years. So that is what is our scriptures tell us. So 311.4. Now, just imagine how merciful the Lord is. And the other thing we had learned last time was we physically and practically see Arjun Maharaj being on a chariot and Krishna being his charioteer. But because we've now understood the purpose and the meaning of verse 61, we know that the Lord also is our own personal chariot. He is directing from within the going around in our lives. So we now can realize that we have that personal relation. We just need to focus on it. We need to tune out everything else, and we need to tune into what he is trying to say. Because at every time he is a sentient being. He is living. He is always conscious. He is not only conscious of us, he is conscious of everything. So being a conscious being, he is very, he will reciprocate. And he reciprocates with his devotees for sure. Like if you walk one step, he walks 10 steps for us. So we need to tune into him and tune out other things so that we can focus on him. And then you will start to see, whenever, it's not like I am realized, but the realized gurus, acharyas, other super souls, other elevated souls have experienced this, that the Lord actually reciprocates. And in few instances, even in our own lives, I'm sure in my life it has happened, and in your life, when we are truly in touch with the Lord, we can feel that He is reciprocating. You ask a question, you'll get an answer, you will get a clue, you will see something happen around you, and that tells you that the Lord is actually reciprocating. We are the ones who stop reciprocating after something has happened. We feel something very strongly, so we pray fervently, something happens, we come out of it. So we need to tune into Him. Now, it's not just that. If you realize, very trivial sort of thing, but I remembered that, sometimes, you get the probiotic yogurt. It's a small cup of yogurt, 200 ml of yogurt. But I was surprised that in that cup of yogurt, the company advertises that there are billions of bacteria in that one small cup of yogurt. And we can easily perhaps digest what, 3, 4 cups easily. And there are existing bacteria inside us. And I actually read whether it is right. And the scientific journals say that in that much cup of yogurt, there are 200 million to 1 billion bacteria. And the Lord has said He is in everyone's heart, every bhuta's heart. So there are, just imagine how many billions of super soul forms are within our body, because we are not aware. We just don't have that awareness. We don't even realize the Lord within our own heart. But not only in our own heart, with every being, every uh, you know uh, bacteria that lives on our body and inside our body, He's in them, and there are billions and trillions of them in us, and He is there in all of them. So just imagine how pervasive the Lord's presence is even within our own body. And that is Guhyat Guhyataram, verse 61. So now the Lord is going to speak about uh, Guhyatamam. So Sarva Guhyatamam. That is now 65, 66. And that is the significance of just that one word. And Bhuyaha. So Bhuya means again. Now, Prabhupada has mentioned it. The Lord has already covered this topic, and because chapter 18 is like summarization, and the Lord is now coming to a conclusion of his conversation with Arjun Maharaj, he is summing it up and he is bringing back verse 34 from chapter 9, and therefore he is saying, I'm going to say this again to you. Now, what is the significance of the Lord saying so? That Sarva Guhyataram Bhuya. What he is trying to say here is, even if you missed it before, pay attention now. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's like a student for us, not Arjun Maharaj. If we skipped our classes all through the year, if we did not even skip the classes, we attended the classes, what we remember and what we have forgotten, regardless of that, what we remember and how we remember it, because it's not necessary that we remember it in the right perspective. So it doesn't matter how we remember it. Regardless of that, the Lord is saying, now what I am going to tell you, just if you latch on to this, you should be able to pass the exam. So this is the significance of him starting to say it this way. Sarva Bhuya Param Bhuya. So it doesn't matter whether we understand we are the soul or not. It doesn't matter we know Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyan Yoga. We may not fully engage in Bhakti Yoga. We may not know the three gunas. We may not know, you know, how those gunas interact with each other. We may not know, and we may fluctuate between, demoniac to godly nature. We may not know the importance and every time act with the consciousness of Om Tat Sat. We may not even follow our varnashram duties, etc. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how elevated we are. It doesn't matter how fallen we are. What the Lord is going to tell us is just surrender, yourself to me. Just surrender everything to me. It doesn't matter your power of analysis, even that power of analysis. Just simply surrender to me. Whether you have half-baked ideas or you have fully baked ideas, doesn't matter. Just surrender unto me. Anyone at any stage of life can surrender unto me. And that's why it is Guhyataram. But why Guhyataram? Why is this so confidential? So we will cover that in 65 and 66. But the significance of the word Guhyataram is to understand we have to go into the different stages of bhakti. So bhakti, as many of you may know, we have those 9 stages from Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, then comes Anartha Nivritti. At Anartha Nivritti, we are actually at the level of verse 54 of chapter 18. Because at that stage, Anartha Nivritti is nothing else but the material coverings have fallen off and therefore they do not impact us. It is, we are nivritta from this anartha. Anartha is the material entrapment. So, how to come to that super soul stage takes to realization of this, that we are the soul, takes so much time, and it is still arriving at in the 4th stage of bhakti. There are 5 more stages that are yet to come, and that is what is meant by what the Lord means that mad bhakti labate param. So from there comes nishtha, ruchi, asakti, bhava, and prem. So those are the 9 stages of bhakti, and there are now 6 characteristics of bhakti as per Rupa Goswami. So he said, and these characteristics exhibit themselves in variously during the 9 stages. So these 6 characteristics are: the bhakti is kleshagni. It removes all sorts of inauspiciousness from our life. As soon as you engage in bhakti, it becomes kleshagni. So, and I don't know whether devotees have realized it or not, but slowly the troubles start to melt away. It doesn't mean that we will not face troubles in life, because we are like a fan that has been rotating. Even if as soon as you start in bhakti, the fan's uh, on position has been switched off, but the fan will continue to rotate. We will continue to face some life situations, but we will have the power to face them, and we will not create new life situations. That is what Kleshagni means. It is Shubhada, it brings auspiciousness. It is Moksha Lagita Krita, means it belittles the liberation, the concept of liberation itself. Because once you are at the Brahma Bhuta stage, this is the stage of Brahma Bhuta, so 4th stage of Bhakti at Moksha Lagita Krita, because you realize that there is so much bliss and happiness to proceed further from there, that liberation itself doesn't matter to us, to the liberated soul. The liberated soul knows that they don't want to merge into Brahma Jyoti, they want to proceed from there. Then it is Sudurlabha. All of that, those stages are Sudurlabha. It is not very easy to attain those. Then there is Sadranandini. That is intense bliss, ecstasy. Every moment is ecstatic. Visheshatma and Krishna Karshini Tatha. It attracts even Krishna. And that is why this is Guhyatara. Why? Now, Krishna, if you know verse 29 from chapter 5, or if you know verses, I think, 12 and 14 that Arjun Maharaj recites in chapter 10, uh, Param Dhama Pavitram Param, that is that verse, or Bhuta Bhavana Bhutesha. So if you know that this is what Krishna is, he is proprietor of everything, he owns everything, he is the energy behind everything, that Krishna gets attracted once we are in this kind of bhakti. And that's why it is Divyataram, the proprietor of this whole world, the controller of controllers, the God of gods, the controller of all living beings. He gets attracted once we engage in his bhakti. So, bhakti of that Sham Sundar form of Krishna, because that is the original flame. So, every other roop of Krishna, whether it is Narayan roop, whether it is Mahavishnu, Vishnu's roop, whether it is the super soul, etc., or any of the avatars that Krishna takes, they all are candles that are lit from the original candle. The original candle is Krishna. So when we engage with him in a personal relationship, we are able to attract Krishna to us. Now, what does again this mean, right? It is Guhyataram because generally Krishna has already said, if you go back to whom this kind of knowledge is revealing, go back to verses 8 and 9 of chapter 10. This is part of the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. So it starts with Aham sarvasya prabhav matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita matchitta matgata prana bodhayantascha parasparam tathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. To those devotees who know that I am the proprietor of all, everything emanates from me, everything rests in me, everything is propelled by me, uh, you know, they continuously engage in describing me, in discussing my leelas. They speak to other devotees about me and only speak of me. To those devotees who are continuously engaged, Tesham satat yuktanam and dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. So to them, I normally reveal this kind of knowledge. So when we were discussing those verses, I had said those are the very prominent verses, and verse 10 and 11 have very deep meaning. This is where the deep meaning starts to unravel. Because it is not any other devotee that is being talked about in verse 10, chapter 10. It is those most elevated devotees, the pure devotees who have come to the stage. They, I have read in some scriptures that it is the stage of devotee of like Rukmini Devi, who are continuously engaged, always thinking of Krishna. Just imagine what kind of knowledge would Krishna impart to such a devotee. They are already engaged. What is that knowledge? So we will not get into that because that is a very elevated topic. But it is that knowledge or the possibility of that knowledge that Krishna is talking about in this verse or verses 65 and 66. Now, this is like the the import of the word Krishna Karshini, which makes this knowledge Puryataram, is, think of it this way, in school perhaps we remember there was an experiment we used to do in physics class, that there were iron filings, very small pieces of iron, and there would be a pile of it, and the magnet, as soon as it goes over it, all the iron filings from the ground would jump up and latch onto the magnet. Now that is our normal situation. We are iron filings, we get attracted by every small magnet around us. Krishna is that supreme magnet. This knowledge has the potential for that small piece of iron filing to bring Krishna, that supreme magnet, to itself. Not that the iron filing goes to Krishna, Krishna comes to the iron filing. That is what makes this knowledge Guhyataram. Now, I want to take a pause because it is very significant that we are discussing this verse just after the last week when we celebrated Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Avataranga. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Krishna is describing this knowledge at the very end of Bhagavad Gita. And he's just revealing a little bit of it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is freely distributing that knowledge. So this is the distinction. The Lord, because he is the Lord, He has created certain rules to manage this world. He is generally aloof from this world, and he engages with his devotees and he reciprocates with his devotees. Reciprocation means what? You give me 10, I'll give you 10 in general sense. The Lord doesn't do that, but he gives much more, even if we don't do anything for him. Our own breath is a proof of that. But the devotees are supposed to be even more magnanimous. So, as a devotee of Krishna in the mood of Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is revealing that knowledge. He is freely selling the knowledge through which everyone can attract Krishna in their lives. So this is the significance of us, having celebrated Gaur Purnima. It is the significance of us being part of this parampara system where that knowledge is freely available to us. If we were not part of this congregation, if we were not to have the benefit of the most pious Prabhupada, who had not enabled this, if these books were not there, if these temples were not there, if the devotees were not to organize and talk about all this, we would not even know about it. So how magnanimous this is, and to that, my humble obeisances. Coming back to Krishna Karshini, now we can understand what is meant when I say that the iron filing can attract the magnet Krishna. Because Krishna himself has said, Naham tishtami vaikunthe yoginam hrideshuva tatra tishtami narad yatra gayanti madbhaktaha. Where his devotees are engaged in talking about him, in discussing his leelas, where his devotees, again, sorry, I'm getting too bhavuk here, but the Lord actually personally comes and is listening. This is the power of that Guhyataram. So, I just wanted to spend the time that these are not just words. There is so much meaning behind every single word here. Now, what does this mean? So I'll give two quick examples. So there is an instance in Kavi Surdas's life. He was a Krishna devotee from, the UP state of India. There is an instance in his life. He was born blind. And there is an instance that because he is blind, he falls into a well. So Krishna actually comes and takes him out of the well. Now Surdas, as soon as the touch happens, he knows it's Krishna. And he knows Krishna has gone away. So Surdas says, "Oh Lord, you are leaving my hand and going away. If you have the ability, try to leave my heart." This is how the devotees can bind Krishna. And then Mother Yashoda's Damodar Leela is another example, that the same Lord who is the owner of everything, who is the creator of Prithvi, is afraid of Mata Yashoda and her punishment and is running scared. So that was the significance of Sarva Guhyataram Bhuya. Now, Shrudumem Paramam Vacha. So because it is so Guhyataram, listen, Shrudu, listen. Listen to this. Now, is this a request or an instruction from the Lord? It is an instruction. It is not a request. It's not now on us to either accept the request or refuse the request. It is actually an instruction. We have to follow it. So, and follow his Paramam Vacha. So we now need to get into a state of mind to follow what he is going to say and to listen to it with complete attention. It is Paramam. It is, we've already talked about that. And it is not just for Arjuna. I mean, Prabhupada has also said so in his own purport that it is for all of us to follow. Because he loves us as dearly as Arjun Maharaj. And uh, he's saying, Tato Vakshami Te Hitam. It is for your own well-being. And the instruction is like this. So it's like, it's like a mathematical equation. If the right side is true, then the left side is equally true and will happen. So you do this will happen. That kind of instruction. The outcome is guaranteed, certain. So this is what the whole purport of that verse is. But in this verse, we also come to know the nature of the Lord. So what is the nature of the Lord? He is like the most engaged teacher, the teacher who's truly, uh, worried about the well-being of the student. Because the teacher actually starts by saying, I'll tell you what I'll tell you. Then he teaches it, and then he is conducting revision. So in chapter 2, he told Arjuna what he is going to narrate. Throughout chapters 3 to 17, he teaches Arjuna. And in chapter 18, he is getting revision done from Arjuna to see whether the student has actually understood. But he is also said, Vimrishyat Asheshena Yatechasi Tatha Kuru. So after deliberating on all this, now that I have given you the lecture, I have done the revision, I know that you have understood it. Now you decide what you need to do. This is the nature of the Lord. He doesn't rule by commandments. He gives us the ability. He gives us the capability. He provides us the facility to, either engage with material nature or with Him. And then He leaves it to us. And it is not just that He's saying so. If you see in the actual world around us, you will see that He's created the world like that. Just a simple thing within a parent and a child relationship, you will see the parents can teach the child, but they cannot force the child to do anything. Forget about the child. You cannot force your spouse. You cannot force your sibling. They cannot force you. We all are directed by our own nature. And what the Lord is saying in this verse, and He's revealing that democratic view of the Lord is there in the whole creation. And that's why we find that there are people of so many different inclinations, so many different mindsets, and therefore, one, it keeps the world propelling in different ways. But that is the reason we've been given that small willpower, and that willpower is not impinged upon by the Lord. And the other significant part is the Lord is attracting Arjuna's mind and attention to focus. So I want to narrate because I was listening to some lectures on this word. I came across this lecture by Prahladanand Swami. He is, it is on his channel Hare Krishna Gita NYC channel on YouTube. So I wanted to give the credits where they belong. So he said, why is the Lord trying to attract the mind and intelligence of Arjuna by saying so? He gave a very interesting perspective. So he said, every morning we get up and we are able to remember who we are. I mean, unfortunate are those who actually cannot remember, or cannot get up. But we are fortunate enough to remember who we are materially. Yet we cannot see our own real self. We cannot realize it. Never do we get up thinking that I am the soul, even though we have the knowledge. We cannot see the material energy. So we cannot realize we are Brahma. It is so difficult. We cannot see the yantra within which we are operating. which is what was talked about in 327 or 1861. We cannot see the super soul. We cannot perceive the super soul. We do not know who we are. We do not know what's around us. We do not know the super soul. Let alone seeing Krishna in his universal form or his Vishnu form or what is being talked about here, that seeing Krishna and worshipping Krishna in his Shyam Sundar form. Our bodies are just not equipped to, realize this. Forget about understanding life situations and making the right decisions in life situations. We are just so poor in our capacity and capability. We don't have the ability in the knowledge acquiring senses or the working senses to grapple with this kind of subject matter. Yet we are so deluded that we think that if it is not in our experience, or something to be real has to be within our experience. And if it is not in our experience, it may not be real. I don't believe it. If I don't see it, I cannot experience it. This is how the world is thinking today. And this is how it is being taught also to us in school. Experimental knowledge is supposed to be better than every other type of knowledge. But we know it's so poor. This is now my words, but just think about it. Do we even realize if I tell you carry a bag of stool and urine and obnoxious gases with you all the time, no one will carry them externally. But internally, we are carrying it along with us every single day, every moment of the day. We have no realization of that. It's a horrible thing. If you don't take care of the body for a few hours, it will smell and stink. And yet we are attached to the body. So this is the level of our understanding. This is the level of our entrapment in this body. So how can we come out of it? The only way we can come out of it is when we give audible reception to such words that engage our mind and intelligence into these higher things. So that is another way to look at this work, that this work is trying to call us out of this entrapment. Because the mind and intelligence, through the mind and intelligence, we can get attracted to this subject matter. We can start to imagine, even if it is not in our realization, it's not part of our, experiences. Because somebody is saying, we can start to imagine. We can start to explore what that means in relation to whatever we've experienced in the past. We can engage with that thinking process. We can do more research. We can contemplate on it. We can meditate on it. So this is why now verse 65 will begin with Manmana Bhava. So I'll take a pause here. This is where I wanted to stop in the discussions of verse 64. I wasn't sure, and I don't know whether we have time to go to verse 65. We can only cover perhaps the very first word, Manmana Bhava, and the significance of it. So maybe I'll take a pause here. I'll see if people have questions or comments. And feel free to share your own thinking, realizations. And of course, if there are any questions and if it is in my power, my ability to answer, I'll try to answer. We'll take a pause here. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, how you explain when people say, well, we can do heart transplant nowadays, right? And we can put fix heart in your body. So how this soul will, its soul changes or soul remains same? Hello?
Hare Krishna. So, Prabhu, your voice was breaking, but I got a little bit of the question. So, let me repeat what I got and then you can add to it. What I heard from you is part of it is, and I'm interpreting it, is that because we now perform surgeries, etc., even including heart transplants, so how is it that So is it like a new soul comes into our being, or is it the same soul continues? Was that your question? Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
So, Prabhu, my understanding is that the soul will continue because the soul. So let me put it this way: there is no question of a new soul coming in, because if it's a heart transplant, let's not talk about everything else because it's just organ. The rest of the body is the same. Since the Lord has said that I reside in the heart, so let's only talk about that, because if we answer that, I think every other question will fall off. So in a heart transplant, what I understand is heart from somebody else is being put into some other body. So what happens is that person is dead, that soul has gone. It's just an organ that's remaining, and it is kept fresh because it is going to remain fresh for certain time. It is preserved in a certain format, and then it is placed into the body. Now, when we think of the Lord, the soul and the super soul being in the heart, we think of that as a physical positioning. It's like if I take a box of jewelry in which a ring is kept, then if I move the box, the ring is also moving with the box. But the soul and super soul, we know, are subtle, way more subtle than any matter. So the soul and super soul are still there. It's the organ that comes on top of it. So old organ is removed and new organ is put on it, and they continue. The reason I am saying that with some confidence here is because the soul has, as I had said in previous classes, there are 5 layers around us. There is the intelligence layer, there is the mind or emotional layer, there is the energy layer, and then there is the physical layer. So in this surgery that is happening, the soul, because the person when he wakes up has the entire memory and awareness of their being, the subtle body is still the same, and it is the same soul. So that is how I understand and interpret, and I hope that was your question and I've answered that question appropriately. If not, other devotees, please take a stab at it. Was that satisfactory, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Yeah, I want to take this because this is the person who got the heart transplanted. I know the experience, how it is and everything, more than anyone else, because I'm the live example here. I feel mostly the God resides in mind more than the heart, because we think from our mind and we feel from my heart. That's what I can say, Prabhuji, because most of the people, they started asking my husband after like a couple of months of the surgery, how she is talking, how she is feeling. It is nothing than an organ that is a part of a piece from a puzzles. That's what I feel like. If it is a building like a brick or something like that. So main source, it is together with the super soul only, and that is connected with our mind, not with our body or any of the parts of the body. That's what I can say. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, you are right. Maybe I didn't come out clearly. So the physical organ is in the bodily layer, the most external
Yes,
layer. There
yes,
is the
yes.
energy layer inside. There is the mental layer is further inside. There is the intelligence
Yeah,
layer which is further inside, and the soul is within that. So there are all these
yeah.
coverings on it,
That can
and then the
cover the
super soul is
simple things like
that.
sleeping and eating also, right, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Because we see the sages who are staying and doing the tapasya, they don't even feel like the weather outside or the hunger inside. everything is connected just with the mind. Mind is the only powerful that can give the energy, or just in a moment it can fall down if we think of something else, because that is the only wavering thing. That's what Arjuna says, right? How to control the mind is more than what, because we can't control the heart. Even the heart is beating according to the mind, what we think in our mind. So every disease in the body, mainly it is connected with the mind. That's what I feel. Not only the heartbeat or anything. So suddenly if someone says a bad thing or a good thing, how the body reacts, it is all depending on the mind. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji,
Mm.
I agree. Any other perspectives, any other questions or comments from anybody?
Actually, it is a very, very wonderful class, Prabhuji. When I'm listening and you are talking like bhavuk and everything. So sometimes we can't even move from the text and we start close our eyes and thinking where we came from and what is this body and how we are connected. When you are talking about the iron filings and the magnet, right? How it is connected together. That is the tendency, how the soul is connected to the super soul. But the hard part is to get away of it. The Maya itself is so powerful that is trying to disconnect the soul to super soul means the natural way, as you said before also, how the water is flowing towards the river, and when we throw a stone, the earth element will go to the earth, the fire element will go to the fire on its own by nature. So why the soul is not moving towards the super soul, and how is this Maya in between affecting that much in our mind? Actually, Maya controls the mind. That's what I feel. Very wonderful class, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mr. Puri.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. What Mataji was just saying, the mind and how powerful it is. I'm also connecting it to the knowledge that we got today from the verses that we read. Is again to, the Lord is giving us a direction to keep it easy for us, that just believe that I am there in everything. And probably that might help us to, to find our way through the Maya and whatever the mind brings in, the dualities that the mind will bring in, by just soaking in his and knowing that he is there. So I'm experiencing bhakti, a renewed understanding of bhakti recently with all the incidents that keep happening with us in our life to bring us back to our path, which we might have veered off of. And I'm connecting all of these conversations to, again, the learning from today. Yeah, it is a wonderful class, and I'm so humbled and honored that I'm able to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. You are actually talking about the very next words as to how to engage that mind into him, how to become manmana, right? The Krishna is saying the next verse actually begins with the very same concept that you're talking about. How can we leverage everything that we've read and continue to hear and experience in our own life to progressively become manmana? Because from Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments? Srimati Mataji, Haladar Das Prabhu, Shyam Rachita Mataji. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for this wonderful class. I don't have any comment or question, but yes, you explained so nicely, and thank you for participating. Preni Mataji, Valli Mataji, Vinod Prabhu. Yes, and we didn't hear from Haladar Prabhu today, but yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, with everybody's permission, then we'll close the class with our prayers to the Vaishnava.
Yes, Prabhuji. पाञ्चाकल्पतरुश्च कृपासिन्धुव्यवच पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
अनंत
वैष्णववृंद
श्री जय
हरिनाम संकीर्तन की
श्री
जय
जय
ठाकुर की
जय
हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna.
जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय
जय
इस ग्रेस विकास प्रभु की जय
जय
थैंक यू सो मच प्रभु जी हरे कृष्णा
हरे कृष्णा हरि बोल
We are waiting for the next class, Prabhuji.
यस
Two wonderful sessions. How it will be the nice slokas coming up. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्णा
Pranima, please join every Saturday, Sunday, Mataji. Yeah.
Sure, I'll do that. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा